Okay. Okay. Tulsa, can you hear me?
Yep,
We're just trying to turn the camera
we're in a
on.
new room, so we're not sure how to turn the camera on.
Yeah.
We promise we're here.
I hear you.
Oh, here, there it is.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, they are.
Directly on me, yeah.
Okay. Hey, this was actually close.
I need to take up 3/4 of the entire thing.
Do not need it.
Yeah, they're Tulsans now. They left us. All right, good morning. How's everybody? Everyone's good, yeah? Okay. Yay. Okay, cool. So today we're gonna talk about React Router. Okay. I put a blurb in the Slack channel. Or a document rather, kind of comparing a spa, right, to React Router. Which I'll be honest, I kind of thought that you picked one or the other, but it's not the case. You're still doing a single page application, just over multiple pages. Yeah. So if you didn't get a chance to read that, you can check it out later. But first thing I thought we would talk about is, like, forget about React for a second and just think about a page or a site with URLs, right? So if you notice at the top here, we got the home and about, like all these links. If you look at, you can't see it because the OK Coders thing is in the way. Gonna go down. Okay, you look at your little refresh button right here, right over here. Okay, every time we click one of these links, you'll notice it refreshed, right? It was super quick, but you saw it refresh, right? So why is it doing that? Any idea? Yes. Okay, so yeah, so is that the error thing? That was weird. Okay. So every time you click a new file, it has to go to the server and get that file and bring it back. This is just a front end kind of thing, so I do that, but it refreshes every time, right? And so that's the whole point of why we're using React, is because we want that single page application only to update the components that you're getting updated, not the whole thing every single time, right? So if we look at the code, this is just, I mean, this is literally just links on pages and then it takes you away here. But this is not React. This is just, you know, just JavaScript, HTML, CSS. And if you remember back, we had this talking OK Coders things. Oh, I can move it. Cool. Get out of here. Let me open the other guy. Okay, so on the basic web application thing here, we use Ahrefs, right, to get to other pages. So when you're setting up your nav on your coffee shop in the beginning, we were just using Ahrefs to kind of go to whatever page it was if you had multiple pages like menu or whatever. So you would just put like where you're going, right, the HTML. And if you wanted to pass some data through the URL, so URL params, you would have to kind of append it onto where you were going to, right? So we're basically going to do this same thing, but in React and all in the SPA single page application thing. So it's going to do it all client side. It's never going to go to the server and grab anything, okay? And it's still going to only update your components that you want updated, and it's super cool. There are ways, and I think especially with like Next.js, which you'll learn about next, that you can do server-side rendering. I think with React itself, you can do server-side rendering. So actually making everything on the server and then bringing it over to the front end or to the React side front end, but we're not getting into that. But just know there's always a different way to do the same thing, like 900 of them. So cool. All right, so I'll just show you the other page here. Let me start this again. So this is the React page with React Router. Okay, so you got a basic sign-in page. So the URL right here, we're just like the base URL, right? Just a slash. Okay. So when I sign in, so that now we're at /home, right? So this, and we'll explain all this in code, obviously, but so you go to /home, and then we got a little navigation on the right over here. And if we want to go to the wiki page, we click it. So now we're at home/wiki, okay? And you'll notice that anytime I click this, if you notice the refresh right there, it's not refreshing. It's all client side, same thing, okay? We have go back and go forward buttons, which we'll explain in a little bit, but those do the same thing as the arrows, except for they don't refresh. And then also we have our Pokemon here. We click on one of these guys, you'll notice our URL is home/Pokemon and then a number 1, right? So that is params that we're passing through the URL to get whatever kind of data we wanted. So you can imagine like a user ID, if you wanted to get a specific like user in your form or in your page. So if we go back home, then I click another one. So this guy, you see it's /2, right? So you're passing that ID and then getting the data you need for that page. Cool. So yeah, it's fancy. I did get Pikachu. I had to find him, but I did get him. And also on the wiki page, you might read it. I had ChatGPT tell me all about Pokemon. And I did not know that Pokemon is short for pocket monsters. Oh. Yeah, crazy. So cool. All right. Did everyone make a new project? Good. If you have not, make a new project. I'm going to do like we've been doing and put the code in Slack. I did think about having y'all just grab a repo, but I think putting the code in Slack is a happy medium between you actually typing it out and just getting the whole repo and maybe not looking at the whole thing, because then you actually do have to kind of sort of look at it. Cool. Any questions real quick on anything we went over or this specifically yet? All good. Tulsi, all good? Also, you all live? Where'd you go, Tulsi?
Unmuting is hard in this
Oh.
room because we have to
Okay.
stand up and touch the screen. So
Oh.
yes, we're good.
We're good.
Okay, cool. All right, then just holler if you're not good. Right. So, once you have a project, we're gonna make a bunch of components and a bunch of pages. Okay, so first thing, you're gonna make 2 directories, 2 folders inside your source folder. Okay, your components one that we're used to, and then a pages one. Okay, so just like I have here, let me see that. Pages and components. Oops, sorry. I probably wanted to see that. Okay. All right, once you're there, we need to actually install React Router DOM, which is the package that gives us all our lovely React Router stuff. So to do that, we're gonna go to, so you can just Google React Router DOM and look at the NPM page. You're gonna do this a lot. Any package that you get, you're gonna go to the NPM page for it, the Node Package Manager page. And you're going to kind of read up on it and see what it is. Normally it's got a link to their GitHub, so you can go over there and kind of check out the code. And then it'll always have an install here on the right, so that you know like what you need to grab to install. Okay. So we're going to grab that. And then if you started your React project, you'll need to kill it so you can install it. I've already got it installed, so I'm not going to run it again. And I'll put that in Slack so y'all can. Get it quicker here. Bye. And then also, if you didn't do the attendance thing, please go in there and put that you're here. Quick code here. Everybody got that done? Good. Yeah. All right, so once you install it in your package JSON, you should see that you have it here, React Router DOM. So React DOM comes with React, and that's what does like the virtual DOM, so you can replace the components and stuff. But React Router DOM is what we want. Cool. All right. Okay, so we'll start with we'll start by looking through here. In our application, we have a sign-in page first off, right? So let me kill my storage here. Okay. Okay, so sign-in page is a page, okay, not a component, because it is its own thing. It's not inside of a different page or component. Okay, so we're used to, like last time it was just component that we're using, and then we were rendering it instead of the home page if they were signed out and all that stuff. This time it's a page. Okay, it's still a functional component, but it's a page instead of a component you're going to bring into something else. Okay. I'm just going to walk through the site and tell you what each thing is, and then we'll look at it in code. So when I sign in, then I'm going to a new page, and we have our /home, so we know we're going somewhere new. So home is a page, okay? The nav bar at the top is a component, okay? Because it's something we're bringing into the page. There's a tiny caveat on that in a minute. And then all the Pokemon you see here, let me not lie to you and tell you. So they are on the home page. So I could have made them each their own component, but I didn't. But you could have. So they are on the home page, right? And then the wiki, this is again its own page. So we have /home/wiki. And then the Pokemon itself, the single Pokemon, this is also a page. So we only have two components, one component. Two technically, because we have a layout, which I'll explain in a second. So just that nav bar is really the only component that we're using today. Everything else is pages. Okay. But you can bring, like if you had your home page, let's say you're doing like a news site, and so your home page has like, your current events or current like what's it called? Like the hot topic, the current, what's that called? Like in a news site when they're like, oh, breaking news. There you go. Breaking news. Goodness. Yeah. So you got like breaking news, right? So that could be like a component that you're bringing into their homepage. And then on the side, you've got like, I don't know, obituaries or whatever. That could be its own component and all that stuff, right? And then you've got a totally separate page for, say you wanted international news. And then on there, it's going to have components within itself, right? So that's kind of the switch in brain thinking in this, is that we now have pages, multiple pages, that will bring in multiple components. And like the breaking news thing, if you had an international breaking news thing, those would be the same component because we want to reuse it, right? But they're going to have different data based on the page that they're on. Okay. So it really opens it up with things that you can do.
Hey, Brian, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
It looks like I was able to install the React Router DOM correctly, successfully, but I don't have that line in my JSON, the React Router DOM line.
Are you in the right folder structure? Like, are you in the React package and, or the React folder instead of outside of it? Like when you do ls or dir, do you see the package JSON on the command line?
Let me look. Yep.
Okay.
I can put some screenshots in the
Yeah.
chat. Okay.
Yeah, React dash router dash DOM. Yeah. Anybody else having trouble with that? Just you? Oh, Shauna, I think you need to be in the React 6 folder.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you did the npm install on the outside. Very, very common.
I think I've done that a couple of times. Thanks.
Yep. Oh, that's the one thing, yeah. No, both. Yeah, you need to do React router DOM.
Awesome. Mine's good.
Cool. Yeah, and there is a React router that's kind of. Rename the app.js. I didn't realize it's that stuff. Anybody else? Good, okay. All right, okay, so we walked to the site, so we know what's what. We're gonna use the local storage again, like we did last Wednesday, to put our username and stuff in there. Okay. Yep. Oh, I gotta go back in the project. Okay, so let's start with the sign in. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, we gotta start with the app.js because we actually have to have our router. So once you have React Router DOM installed, then you can use it, right? So in order to use it on our app.js, we need to import it, the two things we're going to use. So it's like most packages, it's got a ton of built-in functionality that we're going to use. The two we're going to use today is the create browser router and the router provider. So import this, I'll throw it in the Slack. And so that goes in your app.js. And don't worry about the rest of the imports yet. We'll get to those. Okay, the second thing that I posted where we're actually using create browser router, that's going to go after your imports and before your app itself. So you can see it right there. And this is what actually creates our routes, right? So you'll see there's a path with /home. So that's going to be our default route. Maybe that's the wrong word. But that's once we're signed in, that's where we're going, right? That's our parent, if you will. And then it has children routes, and we'll get deeper into all this. But those paths are there, as you can see. And then, well, let's wait till I caught up before I get too deep. You're all good. Cool. So once you're here, comment out this first object like that. Let's see if it breaks. So all you want to have is the object with path sign in, which is just at our / routes or at our base route. And then you'll see in our return here, we're just returning our router or route provider with our router as a prop. And this is a very common, what's the word? Like convention, maybe? Like a lot of things you bring in, like a context provider and a bunch of other deals, you'll basically wrap your app in it because you're going to use it throughout the app. And so that's why I've been having y'all make the home page, the home component. It's kind of where all your state and everything else lives, because the app is really going to be wrapped around the things that you're going to bring in. And this can get deep too. Like if you're using like a context provider and then a route provider and then other providers that I don't know off the top of my head, this like you could be wrapped and wrapped and wrapped and wrapped and wrapped. So just know that. Okay, so if you have this and you have just the sign in, then you should see, if we go back to just our sign in route or just our / route, you should see our sign in page. It's not going to be this pretty, but you should see it. I'm going to put the CSS for the sign in page here. Well, so if you want it to be pretty, what is that? Okay. So you'll create a sign in.css just next to your sign in.jsx. Yep. Yep. The app.js. Thanks. So you have the import like this. Okay. And you have the router like this. And this is going to be before your app.
Ryan, did you give us the code for the signin.jsx?
Oh, I probably did not. That might be helpful. Sorry. Oh, why didn't CSS go through? Oh, Slack doesn't like my slashes. Okay. Get rid of that. Okay, that's the sign in.css that just went over. And this will be the sign in. Put the same sign in that JS text. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so now that you have the sign in.jsx, you might actually see this awesome page. Give me a thumbs up when you're seeing this awesome page. Uh, Nancy, replace everything in your app.js with just what I have in there. Like just the router provider. Having trouble or getting it? Did you import it in? Your JSX file? Mhm. Mhm. Oh, so do you still have your app.css? Is it untouched? Cause it should, well, I guess hold on the text center. Everything's good except for it's not center. Okay.
I'm getting an application. Oh. Yeah, that's fine. But you're gonna have that sort of
Did you have a location change? Just kill your whole thing. Yeah, it seems when you change the name, it, like, it doesn't like that. It's good. Okay, everybody else having problems? Yes? Yep. Okay. All right, so yeah, make sure your pages are in your pages folder. And your components are in your components folder. And then the CSS will just live right next to its JSX counterpart. Also, you good? I know it's hard to unmute.
Yeah, we're good.
Cool. Okay, so we'll go through this sign-in.jsx real quick. A lot of the things we were using before. So the new thing is going to be this use navigate. But the rest of it, we're just doing a use effect where we're just doing an empty dependency array, which means what? It'll do it. With the empty dependency array, it does it one time on startup. Yep. If you leave it off, you don't have the array at all, it's going to do it every single time. And then the third option, anybody remember? Okay. So if you put a piece of state in that dependency array, it's going to get triggered anytime that state changes. Okay. So like if we were to put username in here, like the username state, if we put it inside this dependency array, then anytime that username changes, it's going to fire that use effect. Okay. So for me, the most common one is just the empty dependency array because I'm just trying to load stuff initially, you know. And again, there are better ways to do this down the road, you'll learn, but this is perfectly fine for what we're trying to do. So yeah, so the use effect, it's calling get local storage, which if you remember the local storage puts it in the browser storage, right? And you can get to that if you go to your dev tools and you click on application, then you'll see it here under the key value. That's where that lives. So it's a great place to store things that are not sensitive that you might need to come back to. Yeah. So all we're doing is we're attempting to get the username and the is signed in if it's in there. And then we have a check here because we want to know if it's not there, then there's nothing to get, right? So we don't want to like set something to local storage like a blank username, like that'd be kind of pointless in this application. So we're just seeing if the get item back is there and its length is greater than 0, because again, if it's blank, doesn't do us any good. Then we're going to do that state variable, right? The state setter, and we're going to set it in there. So local storage, grab it if it's there, and then set your state variable to it. That's all review, right? You're all experts on that by now. Good to go. Okay, cool. And then we're doing the same thing for the is signed in to see if they've been signed in or not. So then on our sign-in page, we see our sign-in header, and then we have our input, right? Which the value is gonna be that state variable username. And then on change, we're gonna do the handle username update, where we're gonna pass the value that's currently being keyed in to up there, which we can go up to there. And all that does is set username, right? We could have done that in line if we wanted to, but this kind of makes it more explicit as to this is what you're doing. And then once we get it typed in, we're gonna hit our button, and it's gonna run the set local storage function, which is this guy. And so this guy is setting the items in the local storage, right? And then it's changing the state of is signed into true, and then it's doing a navigate. So this is where router comes in. So navigate is a function that we got from React Router from the use navigate hook. Okay. And when I say hook, those are like built-in functions that you can use. You have to make an instance of it at the top of your code. So you just do the hook, you do equals, doesn't have to be navigate. You could call that anything you want. Kind of makes sense to call it navigate because we're going to be navigating. But once you have that, then you can use that navigate to actually go places. So the navigate takes the route that you're going to as a string. So we're going to go to /home. It also can take parameters. Yeah, so you can do like, if we wanted to pass, say, the username here, you can do an object. Okay. And that's going to pass that with this to the route you're going to home, and then you could get it and use it. And we'll have an instance of this sort of in a little bit. But just know that you can pass stuff there. It's pretty cool. So where does this /home come from? How does it know what to do? Go to pages. So the slash in this case is has nothing to do with your folder directory, but it will take you to your home page, you're correct, but it's the URL, right? So if we go back to our app.js where our browser router lives, and we can now uncomment this guy, it's going to come in here and say, okay, where is /home? Where's the path for /home? Okay. And it's going to see that, and then it's going to display whatever component you put there. So in this case, we have our layout component, and then we also have an error page. So our layout component is good for if you need something on the top of the page, like say a nav, and then below that is going to be the actual code that's changing the actual pages you're using. So, yeah.
So is that like the way I think the video was talking about absolute navigation versus like relative? Is that now like when it's /home, it's like is it absolute or is it relative? Like it was talking about the slash versus just the slash by itself.
That is a good question. Zach, do you know off the top of your head?
Like if you put the slash in front, then I think it'll be absolute.
It's just absolute. It'll take you directly to.
Like if you put a slash, that would be the slash. If you wanted to do relative, I think you would just not have a slash.
Let's see. Yeah, absolute path blends with deleting slash. They're always resolved from the root. And relative does not have it, and they're resolved relative to the parent's route path. So if the parent here was like /Taco Bell, and you put home without the slash, then it would make sure that the Taco Bell is in front of the home, if I'm understanding that right. And then like the /about would go straight to /about.
So
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right. Okay, cool. So now, did everybody uncomment that browser out a bit? Cool, okay. So if you go to your page now, well, it's gonna break because you don't have a home tab yet. Okay, let's get the home code going. So go ahead and make in your pages folder, make a home.jsx and a home.css. And I will put the code in the Slack. I'm going ahead and putting the layout.jsx and then the nav JSX and CSS also in the code for you. Layout and nav, those are components, okay? Those are gonna go in your components folder. Home will be a page. The others in the components folder. Once you get those, I also put the Pokemon data.js in there. And that'll just go on the same line as your app.jsx. Okay, we are copying on the code. Anybody need help with that? Any errors? Once you have all that, you should see this page. Once you sign in. See a lot of furrowed brows. Yes, yeah, sorry, yeah, I gotta import it in. Yeah, so get all these imports, and then I'll have you comment out the wiki and the Pokemon for now. I'll put them in Slack. Philip, did you get an error that made you think to ask that? Very good. Very nice, yeah. That was on purpose, so you would know to look at the error and go, what could be the problem?
That broke it worse for me. Now everything's broken.
Comment out the wiki and the Pokemon.
I did.
Maybe in the home. Let's look at the home.
Ooh, it has a problem with my pages sign in now.
Yeah, comment out. Just for fun. Pokemon wiki. Just for fun. Just so. But your wiki. Yeah, it's just. Yeah. Okay, yeah, make sure in the app.jsx that you also comment out wiki Pokemon down here, and then also the error page. So if you didn't get it, we're gonna, on the imports, on the app.jsx, we're gonna comment out wiki and Pokemon and error page, these three. And then also in the router, we're gonna comment out those same guys. So comment out that, comment out that. And we should still see our page here. Give me good ideas for next time. Philip, are you seeing your local storage? So currently we don't have a sign out button, so you'll actually never go back to sign in. But if you want to test it, you can clear that local storage with that. You can either right click on it and delete, or I think the circle with the X gets rid of it all. And then go back to your home, not your home, but your slash page. You can see that again. Anybody else need help? Everybody seeing the main Pokemon page?
Mine's like way broken now.
Hey, broken. Let's see
It's
your,
file name problems. I put it in the chat.
okay. What file is that from? Is that from your app.js?
Yes.
Okay. Components layout. Oh, you have a capital P on sign-in pages.
Oh,
Oh, and well, I guess
what?
your
But
pages folder is capitalized.
yeah,
So you have a lowercase p on your home import.
okay.
Yeah, normally you want to have those lowercase folder names just by convention.
Would it hurt for me to just change those now?
Maybe I
So
would
like
just,
pages needs to be lower. Oh, so just in the import, I should just change pages to uppercase.
yeah, that would be fine. And then,
Give them the Pokemon.
yes, yeah, the Pokemon data file is in the Slack as well.
Oh, still
And
didn't
Sean,
work.
so your components on your layout import needs to be capitalized, match what you have. You have capitalized components there. Yeah. Yeah, the last thing that I added was the Pokemon data file. 9 minutes ago.
It fixed layout, but it still hasn't fixed sign in or home.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you may need to shut down VS Code and reopen it.
Okay. Okay.
And then also make sure you got them commented out below in the router itself. Like this.
Oh yeah, I haven't done that yet.
So it's still looking for them, but they're not there.
Ryan, I put a question in Slack too.
Okay, that's better. Thanks.
Sweet. Pokemon data and home directory. Do you have it in your pages folder? Your Pokemon data? Nancy?
Yes, I do.
Okay, it should be out here with your app.jsx, just on the root of your project.
Oh. Yep, that fixed it. Thank you.
Oh, yep. All right, everybody seeing this so far? Michael's having troubles.
So. Export. You can let you know. Have to do that. They're going to do it. Yeah. The. It says, like, app.js6 here, you have app.js. Huh, named app.js, you think, did you change the X, take the X off? Rename it to JSX and what do you think? That's weird, yeah. Yeah, anybody else? Good? You here? Comment, their page was not. So your Pokemon data is, get rid of it. Get rid of the gum. Here, yeah. Appreciate it. And then, so I think the problem kind of routed, you said dot Pokemon data, it's not dot slash. Everybody else good?
All right, so. Let's see, what are we doing? All right, so on our app.jsx, we have our router, right? This is the whole shebang. The router takes in objects for its paths, right? So each of these is an object, right? And so within there, we have our path, so where it's going to go to. And then we have the element that we want to display, which is going to be the component we want to display. And then there's also other options like we'll see with the error element. So what that does is if a route is not found, it's going to display this component. It has a built-in one that looks like, well, looks like that. It's pretty ugly. So if you use the error page like I was showing, you can make that page look as pretty as you want to. And then it's actually going to show that component. And then you'll notice we have children routes, okay? The reason we have children routes is because we're using a layout, and I'll explain that in a minute. You can have just like we have the sign in here, that's its own route. Like it's not a child of home. It's like its sibling route, right? So when we go to sign in, it's just the slash. If we were to put slash sign in here, then it would be slash sign in. So if we go slash, doesn't like. Let's see if I gotta remove this. Oh, I put double slash sign in. Single slash sign in. Okay, so now it's on the sign in route, right? If it is a child route, it's gonna have slash home and then whatever the path is. So in this case, we have this child of path home, right? But it doesn't have anything in there, so it's just gonna be at slash home. With the other ones that we're gonna look at in a minute, like wiki, it would be slash home slash wiki. Okay, so it's a child of home, so it comes after it. When the other routes, those like slash sign in, if we wanted like slash Taco Bell, we could have that. Oh, that's not what I wanted. So like here, I wanted to put slash Taco Bell and show, we'll still show the sign in route. Oh, I broke everything. Oh, so your objects have to be separated by a comma. Yeah. Okay, so now if we choose slash Taco Bell, still get the sign in page, right? Because that's what we want to show. Okay. So like the main routes and then children routes will be slash whatever. Make sense? Cool. Okay. Sweet. So let's talk about layout. What the heck does layout mean? So when you do a slash layout like this, it's what's there, like I was saying earlier, is going to show on all pages. Okay. So with our slash layout, we have our nav. If we look at our layout component here, it's got our nav component in it, right? So it's just a very small thing. You can make this as big as you want. If like you have all this stuff that you want to display kind of on every page, you can put it all in here. And so that lets us have, when we go to slash home, not home Taco Bell, just home. This part up here is the nav, right? So this is in that layout component, okay? And we'll see once we fix wiki or these guys that you'll see it on each page. Okay. Making sense so far? Good, good. Okay, cool. All right, so let's go ahead and uncomment. Well, let me give you, so in your pages, go ahead and make this error page.jsx. And it does not have a CSS file. And I will put the code in the Slack. That is not the Slack. It's gonna be error page.jsx. Once you get that in, you can then uncomment it on your app.jsx, both at the import and in the route. There are likely a lot of other things you can pass into router. We're only passing in a couple like path and element and everything else. So when you look at the documentation, you can see all the different magical things you can do. This is like barely scraping the bucket of what React Router DOM can do. Once you get all that posted in, then if you put in a URL that doesn't exist, then you're going to see that error. Oops. Nope, not like that. Oh, well, that's not any prettier, is it? Error page, error element. Okay, for some reason it's not showing it. Let's see if we can debug this as we go. So I got my error page, which is in my pages folder, right there. And I've got it down here on my error element. But when I go, so it should show, oops, sorry, blah, blah. When I go to this, it's still showing the original one. Let's see. Let's go here. Okay, this should be.
Is it error page that's for 404s?
Should be, yeah, for 404, I think. Pages here, page. Hmm. Got it there. Got it there. Is it working on anybody else's machine? No, cool.
Working on mine. Does React have like a way that knows when an error is thrown? It goes to that error element?
Was it? Was
Does
that a
that make
question?
sense? Yeah, that was a question.
Okay.
How does how does React know that an error is thrown?
So with this, yeah, with this error element, it's if the route is not found, then it should throw this error page.
Got it.
I'm wondering. No, it's working before.
Does it need to go to like the root route?
It may,
Because you were doing it on them, but
yeah. Let's see. If we create another route, it's a root route. I wonder if it's the layout. I think it was working before I added layout. Oh, here we go. Okay. Okay, yeah, so it looks like it has to be on the root route like this for some reason for that to work. Which,
I think you would have had to put it on the, because you'd put it on home, right? So it
Then-
only would work if. Like, I don't think it's because you're going to like a child at home, so you would have had to
Right.
put it on one of the children.
okay. Let's see.
it would still have to match it somehow. Path would have to be like.
We're getting home.
So like no path is mentioned.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the point is that you can make your own error kind of screen if you don't mess it up like I did. But that's only a little thing. Hopefully, people hit your route right and you get to the right page. So just keep error element commented out. We won't worry about that right now. Or error element page. And you should be back to kicking. So then if we do one, it's going to just have a default one. That's fine. We're just going to re-comment out error page in both those spots. Cool. Everybody's back to seeing just the home page. Good. See red over there.
You signed it. Put it right in there. Saying, go to. Let's see. Go back. Yes, that's a root route, so that's gonna match with maybe like anything. Like I think these things are matching certain agents. So like the matches like that's the thing that's down at the fallback. So like if you imagine a different error. So like only one of the error only one of those is gonna get shown. I think what the parameters. Yeah, so how did you throw the error? Before was here. And the yeah, but which round are you about to go there? Alright, so. So if you look at this bubbling thing, it's talking about how. like, What's in that? They'll be going up. The tree. So it's cities. And so the root about is the thing catching it. Yeah. Okay, let's. Flash one. Here, yeah. All right, let's do, see your wall. Probably.
Oh, so I can say, oh, wait. Looking at it, that's what it's saying.
Yeah, so the bubble up, so. No, the ball. Go back to your app and just search. Go over there. You see the mistake? It should be that.
I think like the different roads, you can have like a, tell you what they erase on that, like, that's why.
I wonder. Yeah. Go all of these, and enter the road. So I don't know why it's doing. Anybody else in this?
All right, let me see here. Okay. So does it make sense how we're getting to home? Slash home, pretty easy. Okay, cool. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and give you all the wiki, JSX and CSS. So, copy paste that. By the way, you're gonna create, it's a page, so it's gonna be in your pages folder. Just wiki.jsx and wiki.css. Right there. When you get that done, you can uncomment them in app.js.
Okay, go to just open it from, and just go to all those.
So, click on the refresh, click on it, you do that. So if you open the console, so the function as well. Okay, go to your. It should be here. So, yeah, control C down here. Do, say, do anything, so. Yeah. Oh, decisions, okay, yeah. Oh, we scroll down. Yeah. Yeah, for some reason that here, or maybe you guys like put it in different folders. Good. Cool. All right, anybody else need help? Good. Okay. All right, so yeah, so get the wiki CSS and wiki JSX and put them in your pages folder. And then once you do that, go to app.jsx and you can uncomment the wiki stuff. So it'll just be the import and then the path. And then once you do that, then you should be able to go to the little wiki button. It's going to show you the wiki. Or if you just go to your URL, or just make the URL home/wiki. And then it'll go there too. And so that's kind of the whole point of the router is it's going to look at that and put that /wiki into there. Well, it's going to see that and then say, okay, what do I want to display? I want to display the element that I have here, which is the wiki component. Make sense? Sort of, kind of. Cool. Okay, so everybody can go to wiki and seeing this so far. Bueno. Cool. All right, so now the fun one. I'm gonna send you the Pokemon CSS and the Pokemon JSX. Oops. Don't want to. And this will also be a page, so it'll go in your pages folder. Okay, so once you get both those built, then you can go back to app.js and then comment those. Anybody having trouble? Good. All right, so we're gonna look at our home component and we're gonna talk about link for a minute, not my dog. So in here, so link basically, if you want to, like, it's basically like an href, right? So you're gonna tell it two, so two is where you want to go. And in this case, we're actually passing some URL params. So we're passing the ID of the Pokemon that we want to see, right? Because we're going to the Pokemon page and we want to see the one Pokemon that we're finding. So the Pokemon data file that I gave you guys is just an array of objects, right? Which if you're working with an API or something, typically this is what's going to look like when you get it back. And it's just got some key value pairs with the ID and stuff. So what we can do is filter through this or map through this. So, home again. And so this is exactly like we did with the menu items, right? So we just have this Pokemon data array. So we're making sure that it's actually there and that its length is greater than 0. So there's actually something in the array. And then we're mapping through it. And so when we map through it, each iteration is going to be that object, right? Object at position 0, object at position 1, blah, blah. So that's what Pokemon will become, is that object. And then in the link, we are passing that Pokemon.id. So from that Pokemon data class, this ID we're passing in, okay? So that's what we're passing to it. So that's how we're seeing that 1 or 2 or 7 or whatever in the URL, is that's where that number's coming from. So it's making a link, or it's making a div which has a link for each one of those cards, okay? So each one of these guys, as it maps through, it's creating each one of those with that link that has that ID on it. Okay. So that's what this bit right here is doing. Okay, and this is very common, something you'll do a lot, mapping through arrays of objects or of just stuff, and then using it to put stuff on the page for multiple things. Because you can make these one by one by one by one, but I mean, why would we do that? We can do this. And then something else I think I mentioned last time we were mapping through, the key property. If you don't have the key property, it gets mad at you. So if I get rid of this guy, you'll see I have a warning here that says it wants a key prop. And the reason is because when React gets this, it doesn't necessarily keep it in the same order as you see it. Okay, so by giving it the key prop, it knows how the order to keep it in. Okay, and that's so with the key prop, you have to give it a unique key. Okay, so you can't like say key equals Taco Bell because they're all going to be Taco Bell. So in this case, because we know the ID is unique to each Pokemon, we put the Pokemon.id in there. Okay. So anytime you see that key prop error, just think, oh, I gotta put a key in there. Cool. So then again, the 2, this is where the link's actually going to go once we click it. And the whole box is our link in this case. So it's going to go to Pokemon/Pokemon.id, which if you remember back in our routes, our path was Pokemon with this colon Pokemon ID. Okay. So if you're going to pass params in your URL, this is how you do it with this colon. Okay. And this could be anything you wanted to pass there. So when it sees this route Pokemon/, it's going to expect something to be there. Okay, that you're passing. And it's going to display the element that we tell it to, which is Pokemon. So when we click on this, so notice our URL is just /home. When we click, it's now Pokemon/2. Okay, that ID of 2 is what we passed. So if we go back and I click on Charm or whatever this is, then it says 5 now, right? Okay, so that's the ID of this guy. And then if we click on Awesome Pikachu, 12. Okay. Make sense? With a little ID in there. Cool. Okay. So, yeah, so very common to loop through things and display them on the page. Get used to doing that. If you haven't done it in your coffee shop app, you should, and you will. Back to our home. Okay. And then you also notice, we're displaying the name and the image. So that's what's making up our little card here. Name and image, and then the whole thing is a link. Because we have it wrapped in a link right there, right? Cool. And link comes from React Router DOM. That's something it gives us. Okay. Which again is very similar to the href. You can pass parameters in an href same way if you're doing basic JavaScript stuff. Cool. All right. So once we get to the Pokemon page, what kind of magic is going to happen there, I wonder? So let's Venusaur. Okay. So we're only passing the ID, right? Just the number 3. So how the heck are we getting this by just passing 3? Any ideas? Nope. It's pulling it, but not from an API. Yep. Yep. So we're just on our Pokemon page. Whenever we're passing the Pokemon ID, right? And this is how you get it out of the params. Another hook from React Router DOM. It's called use params. So we're going to use the params. We're destructuring the Pokemon ID. You know where this comes from? How we know that this is Pokemon ID? Like this. That's going to come from our route right here. Because we told it Pokemon ID. So if we just put ID here or, identification, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. this is what the route param is going to be called. So if you think about it, like this is the key to that number, right? To that value 2, 7, whatever. So when you use params here, this is what you're getting. You're destructuring whatever it is. If you didn't want it to structure, you could have just called this params, right? Without the brackets, and then you params dot Pokemon ID would be that value. Okay. But since we know it's going to be Pokemon ID, we can just destructure it, and then we already have it. We're good to go. Cool. So then, like you said, from Pokemon data, we're going to, again, make sure that it's there and that its length is greater than 0. Do this a lot to make sure that there's actual data so your app doesn't crash. Then we're going to use a dot find method, okay, which is a higher order function. And so what it does, instead of using a for loop, find lets you go into whatever it is you do it on. So in this case, the Pokemon data array, and you tell it what you want to find. And it's going to return whatever it is that you wanted to find. So in this case, you give it F, which F is just the iterator. So this could be anything. This could be Taco Bell. This could be Pokemon, whatever you want. Then you do, so this is like the object, right? So for in Pokemon data, when we do find, we're going to go into this array, right? And we're going to look at each one of these objects. So the F would be this object. And we're going to say, okay, in this object, do we find what we want? If not, keep going and going and going. And so in the find, we're saying, let me put this down on the line. We're saying if f.id, so again, if this ID, so we're on the first one, if this ID, I keep going down there, equals the Pokemon ID that we're passing, okay? So if it does, give me that object back. That's what I want. That's what dot find does, okay? So you'll notice, so we could have done a for loop, right? We could have done the same thing in a for loop. We could have said for loop. So array in this case is going to be Pokemon data. And then get rid of this thing here. And we could have said if Pokemon data at position index, right? Because that's our index there. Dot ID equals Pokemon ID. Then put it in Pokemon details, right? Pokemon details is just our variable we're defining there. Like this would do the same thing as this find. Make sense? Kind of eye-opening a little bit. Cool. Okay. Nothing wrong with for loops. I don't care what anybody tells you. There's nothing wrong with for loops. Use them all the time. Higher order functions are nice because they're smaller and they're more succinct and they're faster. But if you need to write it out so that you actually, it like makes sense, like for loop, okay, I'm going through this, whatever, nothing wrong with that. However you get your data is good. I did want to talk about, so see, I have a triple equals here. If I didn't have this number here, this would not find it if it was triple equals. So what is triple equals versus double equals? Yep. Yep. Yeah, so triple equals checks type. So in JavaScript, 1 equals 1. This is true. Okay. This is not true. Okay. Because 1 is a string and 1 is a number. Yep. Yep. So we added the number, so we changed it to a number because when you pass things through parameters, it's in a string. Okay. And this actually got me when I was typing this up. I was like, why is it not working? But I was like, teachable moment. So you want to try to use triple equal as much as you can. There have been a few cases that I've dealt with that I use double because triple was just really jacking me up. But most of the time, triple is the way to go. Now, what does a single equals mean? Thought I heard it. Someone whispered. So like right here, single equals. Single equals is an assignment. So whenever you make a variable, right, you set it equal to whatever it is. So single equals just assigns the data. Okay, there's no comparison or anything. Double is loosey-goosey, doesn't care about the type. Triple cares about type. Okay, quadruple, there's not one, I'm just kidding. Okay. All right. Yeah, so that like Phil pointed out, that is why I put number here, because I wanted to strictly make sure that the number 2 or whatever equaled the number here. Okay. We could have probably done it as a string if we did double equals, and it probably would have been fine in this case, but might have messed something up later on down the line. So this is a more succinct way to do it, a more specific way to do it. Cool. Okay. So we got our Pokemon component, and we're using the params. Remember, that's just getting that number, whatever, out of there. And that's anything after that colon. Okay. Everything before it, we don't care. That's just part of the URL. And then once we have that, we're looking at our Pokemon data, our array of objects, and we're using the find to go in there and find the one we want, and it's going to return that object to Pokemon details. So right now, if it was ID of 1, then it's going to return us this object right here. Okay. So now that we have that, we can then use that data to then display it on the page, right? So I'm going to do that every time. So then down here in our return, we're making sure that Pokemon details is there, right? In which it's an object, so we're not going to check its length. We're just going to make sure it's there. And you can also check if it's an empty object. If you check the type, it might throw you off because an array is also of a type object, which is weird. There's not a type array. So, yeah, so we're just making sure there is something there, right, in that object. And if there is, then we're going to go ahead and make us our little box thing. We're going to use Pokemon details.name, right? Because we have this object. So we're going to grab the name. So we're going to put Bulbasaur. And then we're going to go ahead and put its image in our source here. And then for the alt, I went ahead and just used the name again for the alt. So our image didn't show for some reason. Okay. And if this does not have anything in it, if it's an empty object or it's null, then we're going to display no Pokemon found. Okay. So I think if we did like 13, there you go, no Pokemon found, because we don't have a 13. Okay. And yeah, that's good. Cool. Questions on that? Clear as mud. Pretty good. Pretty cool. Yeah. Well, probably doesn't seem simple, but it may seem very basic, but with this, your app can just, I mean, could be huge, you know, because you can do all sorts of pages and you can have 900 components you're putting on each page and blah, blah, and all that stuff. And yeah. Zach, when you're messing with this, do you have like a pages folder and a components folder?
Yes, I mean, I usually use Next now, but we'll have like all the things that get routed to would be in pages, and then some of the pages utilize would be.
Cool. Yeah, so I think that's pretty common.
Sometimes they would say screens.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, when I'm doing a React Native app, I'll do screens and components. But I think at work, which I didn't create it from the beginning, but it's like just all components, even though there's a crap ton of pages, so it's pretty disorganized. So when you get to your first job, you may inherit something awesome like that. So then you can go in and make it pretty good. Cool. Let's see what else. Oh, layout. I didn't talk much about layout. So what a layout does, like I said, I did mention this. It is for stuff you want on the screen, like on every page, basically, right? And that's why in our app.jsx, we have this layout with the children. So the children are going to be the pages that are displayed below the layout, okay? So just to solidify that, if we go home, like we have this header / nav bar, right? This is in layout, which you can see right here, right? Or let me go to layout, right here, nav. Okay, everything underneath it, what outlet does is it displays the children. Okay, so if something, and it doesn't have to be layout, like if your home page, you wanted to display another page as its child underneath it, you could put outlet down there. Okay, so that's what outlet does. So, for instance, here, these children are the outlet, okay, of that layout component. So this is the layout component, right? And then this is outlet. We go to wiki, this is the layout component, this is the outlet. And then same on our Pokemon page, layout component, outlet. Cool, we're good. Okay. When I was making this, I was having trouble and Dylan had to help me. I was trying to put the nav on each page, but it wouldn't get the name, which it doesn't have the name because I cleared my thing, but it wouldn't have the name on every page because I couldn't pass it like I would normally pass it with props because they're pages. So we figured out that do the layout component, that way you have that consistently on each page and then have the outlet for the children routes, the child routes. Okay, last thing, go back and go forward. So these replace these buttons up here and they don't re-render the page because remember our whole point is to keep this all client side, right? We don't want our page refreshing until we tell it to. So go back, go forward, just use those. And the way they work is, we go to our nav, we're using use navigate, right? The hook here, and we're getting it here. So now with this navigate function, if you're on click, if you do a -1 or a 1, it's going to add or take away from that. I think it's called a browser stack. So if you can visualize every time you go to a page, it puts that page on a stack. And then when you do minus, it takes one off. So it takes you back to the other one. If you do plus and you're like in the middle of the stack, let's say, it's going to go to that next one that you were at. Okay. There's a lot of stack stuff in JavaScript. I don't know how deep y'all got into it, but it's pretty wild. But that's what those buttons do, is just with the navigate, -1 +1 moves you either forward, moves you backward, and it only can go as far as like you've clicked. So if I like go back, it's going to stop eventually. Yeah. Oh, maybe I lied. I don't. Okay, there we go. To an error page. Oh, the error page was the last one, so I went forward to that because I used the back button up there. And do you see when you hit the arrow buttons, you can see it's refreshing, right? So when we hit these buttons, you can see, well, it did refresh that time. Okay, maybe it still refreshes. You typically aren't going to put those on your page. You're going to put a link to where you want to go to. But that is something you can do with the navigation. And there's a ton more. If you look at the, let's go to the React Router site. So just reactrouter.com. Like even their tutorial, I was looking through the tutorial and it is super long and super deep. And there's just a ton of things you can do. There's a use history hook, which I think you can actually pick a place like that you have been and send you like back there and stuff. A ton of stuff. Like I don't know half of it. Yeah, cool. So we got about 10 minutes left. Questions? Any help? Yep.
So when you say that it's on the client side, does that mean like, for example, if I was coming to this page and I went to the page, does it like download everything that's there initially and then now it doesn't have to like every time I click on something, reload the page, or what else that?
Yeah, so client side, server side, right? That's your two big things. So when you say I'm a front end dev, you're working on the client side. If you say you're back end dev, you're working on the server. And yeah, so React, the whole point of React is not to have to go get stuff, like to refresh, like to only mess with your little components and stuff. So yeah, so it handles the routing because normally, as we saw in the other app, let's see if I still have it.
Open the initial page.
Mhm.
You put everything there. basically it doesn't have to go back and keep fetching it, basically.
Right, yep, and until they're, like, say you need to update some data or something, say, so you're signing up for, I don't know, Factor meals or whatever, which are really good, by the way, so I haven't had those. When you like sign up, I should hand out my Factor cards. Yeah. Yeah, so like when you sign up, obviously then it's gonna trigger something to go to the server, to go to the database, to put your info in there so they can email you 17 times a day and all that stuff, you know. But for everything else UI wise, yeah, React gets it all and then doesn't have to change it until that does occur. Cloud functions are a big deal now, so serverless stuff. I just did one at work and it was super cool. Cloud functions. So basically, instead of having a server, which y'all get into this next time, but you have routes to your server from your front end, right? So if you need to update something or whatever, hit your server, do whatever it needs to do, come back. So you would use these cloud functions instead. So instead of having a route to your server, you'd kind of have a route to your cloud function. And then that function would then handle whatever it is you're trying to do. So it replaces the server for the most part.
So like a function library?
You're gonna write them, so they're your functions, and what you want to separate it out to like one function per cloud function and not make them super huge and bloated. So like you have maybe one for like update or whatever. The one I did, we're sending HL7 stuff, medical stuff to the state. So I needed a cloud function that would trigger when they approve the deal, that would then send it over. So we didn't have to like do it in our application, because they can just send it over and then we're good, go away. Yeah. So anyway, that's just something that's been coming up that you'll probably get into. Super cool. But the last thing I was gonna say, Philip, so on this original site, like every time it's refreshing, so every time it's going to grab what it needs, right? And this is the not React way to do it. Make sense? Cool, okay. What else? You did a login button?
Go back to the side.
Here, bring it up here. Let's check it out. Let's do some pair programming with all of us. I'm keeping y'all, don't worry. Also, you go away. I'll put you here so you can see the screen. Okay, so our question is, how do we clear local storage? Right? Anybody know? How would you figure it out? That's one way.
You have to go that far.
I've got it. You know?
No, I would say, I would do it, I'm just.
Oh.
Google, just try to Google.
Man, I don't use Google at all anymore. ChatGPT is so much faster.
Yeah. Yeah, overhead it. Yeah, I just get it, on the button to bring it back to the page, but
Cool.
all the info is still there.
Yep.
So.
Figure it out. Anybody got it figured out yet? No?
Do we make a component, make a new function?
Ask ChatGPT.
Hierarchy?
What does it say right here?
But then.
So go back to your code. And so where's your button at?
It's in the nav.
So an on click of the button, so right now you're going to sign in, which is fine. So yeah, make you a function up here, like above your return. And lowercase. Oh, you're making a function. Are you trying to make it ES6 or? Can you want, or you can just do function. Just type function. Log out. No, you can, yeah, just put your parentheses. Yeah, do your curly brackets. Okay, hit enter. There we go. So when you call that, you're gonna want to do two things, right? You're gonna want to clear it and then go back to sign in. Okay, so put your clear stuff there, go over storage. Yep, and that's a method, so have your parentheses. Okay, and then hit enter, and then do this navigate sign in, do that up in there. Okay, and then just call this function, your logout function from right here where it's in that. And parentheses, because you're calling the function. All right, let's see what it is. Bam, look at that. We got it? Too easy? Cool. All right, you're teaching next class. Tulsa, do you guys see that? Bueno? Great. Yeah, man, thanks for.
I'll do that like 10 more times.
Yeah. Well done. All right, any other questions? You got 3 minutes. Hey, want me to go over anything else real quick to clarify? Good to go. So Wednesday, I'm thinking I'm gonna do a review day. So we'll kind of start at the top, go through everything we've been through, kind of build out an app or whatever. So we only got an hour, so it'll be fast, but if you have any questions then or now, bring them, we can talk about them. And then next Saturday is the last day, so we'll be coffee shopping it up. Cool. Well, I'll hang around for a while if anybody's got anything else. Tulsa, y'all got anything? Good to go? Cool. Oh, sorry, here. Everyone wave. Okay. Enjoy your speaker. She's really good. Later.